Hi, I'm Garm1, and this is Midgardia RPG's cool crowdfunding show. I'm here today with Kimmy. How's it going?
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your project? I can't. Is it Decuma? Decuma?
Decuma, yeah.
Decuma. Okay.
So Decuma is the R&D for your RPG. So basically, it's a tool that you use. It's a game. It takes 40 to 90 minutes that you use to set up for your campaign in any system. So if you're playing D&D, Savage Worlds, Deadlands, Traveler, any of these things, like you can just play Decima before you get into all that, and set things up like character connections. It creates a location for you with a bunch of details and NPCs and things like that. And it also creates like the party's role dynamics, like who have they pissed off in the past? Like, does anybody owe them money? Things like that. So it really kind of enriches the world before you launch into your long-term campaign.
Cool. So, how did you come around to creating this?
Well, I found myself, I do a lot of GMing and I run games at a lot of conventions. So it's like a table full of strangers, and there's always that weird, a little bit awkward part where everyone's like kind of getting to know each other. So I found if I was stealing uh, Powered by the Apocalypse, PBTA hacks tend to have really great character connection questions in them in the playbooks. So I was, even when I was running other things, if I was running Travel or something else, I find that I would steal those questions from a hack that was in a similar setting, and it kind of just kept things going smoothly. Everybody already knew, okay, my character knows that person and that person at the table, so we were just able to jump into the story like with both feet rather than like, okay, well, I guess I like you. I guess we trust each other. We're metagaming because we're all in the same party. So I guess we trust each other. So I figured, I was like, okay, well, that's great. And, a bunch of GMs I know were doing this similar things. Some of us were using things like Microscope or The Quiet Year, which are, some other games that are made to be like a complete narrative story. And we were pulling stuff from that to set up locations and to create worlds. And I was just like, okay, why are we like shoehorning all these different things into this practical purpose that we obviously all want, but they're at the there aren't really any tools that are made just to set up the campaign. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to make that. So I decided to use tarot cards because it kind of has like this cool thematic, like the fate of your campaign thing going. And I also really like the card mechanic because unlike dice tables, you're not going to get the same questions multiple times. If you're, character creation and Traveler, for example, has a bunch of tables, super fun. I love it. It's one of the things I love to do just when I'm bored, like with friends and we're drunk. It's like, okay, we're just going to make Traveler characters because it's crazy and fun. But the problem is sometimes you get the same stuff. You roll the dice, there's only so many options. Luckily, as you go down the paths, like you get farther and farther apart. But I really wanted a mechanic where it's like once a card was drawn, once a question was brought up, it wouldn't be brought up again in the same session.
Right, absolutely. And cards are great for that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the great thing about tarot cards is there's 78 of them. So there's two cards on each, or there's two questions on each card. And then you've got 78 cards. You could literally play Decuma like hundreds of thousands of times, and every time would be very different.
Yeah, well, that's cool. So can you tell us a little bit about how that works out in practice? Like, take me through an average, session, I guess.
Well, session, like I said earlier, takes like 40 to 90 minutes. It kind of depends on how verbose people are, if or how big a group you have. Generally, for a party of like four with a GM, it's like an hour and a half. There is a GM, so the GM who would be running the campaign kind of facilitates the game, and people come and they sit down with. They can come with complete character sheets. Like if you're playing D&D and you've specced out, your rogue or whatever, you've got everything done, great, you can bring that to the table. If you're playing something like more like PBTA, or even if you just have a concept, you're playing D&D and you're like, well, I know I want to play this, but I haven't done it yet. That's okay. As long as you have your basic character concept, a name, what class or profession, playbook, whatever system it is, and then like a basic, like very basic, backstory. My name is Janet. I'm, a ranger from, the forest, and I grew up with, the wild things. Okay, that's enough to get started playing Decuma. So then you sit down and you pass out the cards. Every player gets 2 character connection cards. They get 2 location cards that help you build the location, and then they get 1 group dynamics card, which is like the major arcana from the tarot deck. The GM gets only world dynamics cards. I'm sorry, world dynamics cards, not group dynamics. It kind of works together. So basically, as you go through, you start, everyone flips over one of their character connection cards first. So it's like, okay, so-and-so knows something about your past, that you've left behind. What was it and why did you leave it? So basically they're questions that have blanks in them that you are meant to fill in with the name of another PC. Then after you do 1 round of that, at the end of the round, the GM flips over one of their world dynamics cards. And these are cards that impact how the whole party has worked with the world around them. So it can be, when we first met, something terrible went wrong. What was it? And how did we get past it? So there's lots of options. There's dozens and dozens of all these interesting cards that kind of build as you go. And those world dynamics cards all the questions are answered collaboratively, but those specifically are like, okay, as a group, let's come up with this narrative. So that's always a lot of fun. Then you do the same thing with the next round, except the players flip over their location cards. And the location cards can have anything from where do we go in, our location? And the location is, the town you're in, the kingdom. It can be pretty much anything, the generation ship that you're flying in, all these things. And it's like, there's a place we go to let off steam. What is that place? There's a slang term we use when we like things in this location. So, we're used to that in real life, but often when we're playing role-playing games, no one thinks about that. So it kind of, I'm a 4th grade teacher in real life, so I love prompts that make people think about things. So it's all these different aspects. Okay, if we're on a generation ship, we're 4 generations from Earth, what would people say? Cool probably is not the thing anymore. And then it also creates NPCs. We once, did a favor for this person. They owe us, who are they? So this just fleshes out the world in much more than, just a little 2-dimensional map. Although as you go, you do kind of, if you're me, it's like a square where it's labeled, but you basically draw out a map. And if you want it to be an actual battle map that's all measured out, it can be. I don't do that. It's usually just a basic little map. So everyone kind of knows oh, okay, the saloon is over there, and the sheriff's office is there. So everyone kind of knows the world. So you do a round of those kind of questions. And then at the end, again, the GM goes last. They flip over another world dynamics card, which is the party's dynamics. And you go through that a couple times until everyone flips over their last card, which is their 1 world dynamics card. So in about 60 minutes, you get a ton of information about the place you're at. You really get to know each other as characters, and how you know each other and why you trust each other or don't trust each other. And then you find out so much about how your party interacts with the world around them, what your reputation is, all these different things that generally you get those things in a campaign, but it's slowly over many sessions, you kind of figure that out.
That is a lot for 60 minutes.
It is a lot. It goes pretty quickly though. You'd be amazed. Just because every person has 5 cards. So you just do a round, you do another round. There's a bunch of APs, actual plays, both podcasts and streams and videos on the Kickstarter page. So if people want to go see that, goldenlassogames.com/Kickstarter. And there's a bunch of the art, but you can see a bunch of examples of how it plays in a bunch of different settings, like Wild West and, cyberpunk. And I think one of them is a Depression era creepy carnival that we made. So it's pretty fun. It's neat.
That's super cool. Do you have any plans for an online version of this in some way, like Tabletop Simulator or a Roll20 module or something like that?
Well, we have a Tabletop Simulator version. We have to wait for all the art to be finished before we uploading the cards, but our prototype art is already uploaded, and we're finishing up with all the little fidgety things about making sure that that's all ready to play. And some of the tiers give you access to that. And then eventually we're talking with Roll20 right now. The Roll20 application process isn't up to us. If it was up to us, absolutely, we'd be in their marketplace, no problem. But I mean, there have been similar games that I've seen that have been accepted. So I can't imagine that they wouldn't accept us at some point, but we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, you do have to nudge them a bit now and
Yeah.
again. The other
Prod
DM
them.
for our group does art for them, and I am
Oh yeah.
sorry my voice sounds super ratty, but
Oh, it's okay.
yeah, hopefully, because this looks super cool, and unfortunately, all of my group is all distributed across the continent. So
Right. And that's more and more like what the tabletop hobby looks like today. Like you play with people like all over the place in different time zones and with Discord and all these things. That's the future of gaming. I also think it's great because it lets people who are in places where there aren't other gamers like reach other gamers and get to play.
yeah, absolutely. Uh, yeah, I live out in a small rural town in Canada. There's
Yeah.
not a lot, not a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Um, and the art on these is absolutely amazing. Who's doing all your art?
Oh, my friend Samantha Terry. She's in my gaming group. We do APs for the Happy Jacks RPG podcast together. And she's just a fantastic artist. I met her through cosplay, actually. And she has done work for Blizzard and DC Comics. And she does everything from like designing clothing for them to like drawing and things. She's just ridiculously talented. She's the one who makes me feel bad when we're doing the Decuma map because I'm like, this is square is the stable. And she's like, okay, this is the sheriff's office and this is the door. And you can see the little, like the shadows on, the bars of the jail. I'm like, okay, time, come on, let's keep passing around. But she's just amazing. And I got really lucky. Both she and my director of merchandise, who Mac Beauvais, who also games with me, Mac is in charge of like merchandise for a couple big companies. So she's helping me facilitate like the actual making of the cards and stuff. But both of them are very big tarot enthusiasts. So Mac is a professional tarot reader. Samantha's really into it. So even though you don't have to know anything about tarot to play Decuma, flip over a card and read the question that's there. But if you know about it, there's like a lot of little Easter eggs and stuff in there because it's really something that's close to their heart. So they've done a really great job with art. And yeah, Samantha's just stupidly talented. It's fine.
I know how that goes. I'm the guy who can't draw in my group. Everybody else has at least like some art skill, and I'm just like, stickman.
Yeah, exactly. This is my character. See this? No, that's a sword. It's a sword. I told you it's a sword. Yeah.
Maybe he gets a cowboy hat if I'm feeling fancy.
Yeah.
That's about as far as it goes.
Yeah, the little Gumby stick horse next to him.
Yeah. I've had to draw maps a couple of times. They're often not pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man. Sorry, I just keep looking at the art. It's
okay.
It's very good.
Yeah, it's neat. We we kind of were batting it back and forth because we've, been testing the game for over a year now because it was really important for us to make sure that it was system agnostic and setting agnostic. So you could like really use it for anything. So we've taken it to a ton of conventions. We put it out on the internet and like hundreds of people tried it out, which is really cool. And so, we were like brainstorming for a really long time about like what style would be best. And we finally decided, like, we finally were inspired and settled on kind of a silhouette shadow puppet style, because we wanted it to be something people could see their own characters and their own game in as they created their world. If you're, working on a generation ship or you're playing Traveler or something like that, and suddenly you're like, oh, and it's like King Arthur tarot cards, kind of like kills the vibe a little bit. So we really wanted something that, like, while very recognizable as like the traditional tarot cards, also is like something that you could be like, okay, I see like our world in this.
Yeah, it's highly symbolic, I guess is how I'd put it.
Yeah.
In that, you look at it and you go, this is a symbol of a thing, not like literally a knight, with a sword or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what have you got for like stretch goals and stuff?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so our base goal was $10,000, and like this is, well, a bunch of us have worked on other Kickstarter projects for tabletop stuff before. This was like the first official like Golden Lasso Games, which is my gaming company, Kickstarter, so I was really nervous. But $10,000 was our base goal, and like, you sit and you picture for like months as you're planning all the things. You're like, okay, like in 30 days, we're going to get to 10K. And then like we hit it in less than 20 hours. And it was like, okay, great. And, luckily we had planned for that. So we had a bunch of stretch goals. So we just passed our third stretch goal. We got funded and we passed our first stretch goal on the first day. This is now our fourth day of our Kickstarter. It closes March 3rd. And we are very close to our fourth stretch goal, which is $20,000, which makes my heart beat very quickly, making that we can just do all the art now. And this next stretch goal is basically Samantha's going to individually draw every card in the 78 card deck. So before, to help with costs and things, because it's very important to me to pay my artist fairly. She's my friend, but she's also like, that's why I need to pay her well, because she's my friend. So we were going to have kind of what we term pip cards, which are like in poker, it's like, oh, this is the 3 of hearts. There's 3 hearts on the card. So with tarot cards, generally, it's usually a little bit more symbolic. There's usually, there'll be 3 swords, but it'll be involved in a picture somehow and things like that. So we were going to basically hire Samantha to do like a bunch of different swords. And then I was going to composite things together. So it'd be like, okay, this is the 5 of swords, and there'd be 5 swords there. But now we're less than, wait, let me look at it real quick. It's very exciting. Oh yeah. So we're less than 50. Yeah. $18,622 as of right now. So we're less than $1,500 away from having Samantha draw every single card in the deck, which is just going to be phenomenal. And it's very exciting. And it's helpful sometimes. Like, even if you're not, it's cool because then you can use the deck for actual tarot readings and stuff, but it's also just kind of neat to like flip over a card and see, something that's a little bit more evocative. Maybe it'll trigger something in your imagination for your character, all these things. Then after that, we have some map assets that you can print out. So if you're, artistically talented like me, which is not, you can print out, the Wild West, map assets, and then you can just cut them out and glue them down. Like, oh, hey, here's the saloon, and here's the graveyard, and that stuff. And then so that one is sci-fi, and I think it's sci-fi, and
sci-fi and horror is the next.
And horror is the next one. Yes, I think we already unlocked the Wild West one. So there's just a whole bunch of different things, and then if we get to 25,000, which it blows my mind that might be a thing. Then we were gonna like start having like gold leaf on the decks and all that fancy pretty stuff.
That's super cool. These are gonna be very nice looking once they're out.
I think so. I'm really excited.
I really like the printable like asset sheet thing. That sounds wonderful. That'd be a lot of fun at a convention.
Yeah, right. And you can just like, and it helps you give you ideas and stuff like that. And then at the end, you have like a nice looking map that you can actually use for your campaign or for your con or whatever. So, and I found you can do shorter versions of Decuma. I usually start most of my con games that way now. So like everyone will get 1 character card and 1 location card. So then it's like, okay, it takes maybe 15 minutes to go around the table. You don't play a full game, but you still kind of get that quick and dirty connections before you like jump into your 4-hour time slot.
Yeah, that's super cool. I know I just keep saying that's super cool, but it really is.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Yeah, fair enough. So what's your production timeline looking like here? Like when can people reasonably expect to physically hold these boxes in their hand?
Right. Well, the turnaround time to actually get the cards printed is a little less than a month. The big thing that is really going to take time is for Samantha to sit and do all the art. Especially, I'm going to say when, so knock on wood, when we hit the $20,000 goal and like, $1,500, that, it's going to take her time to do that. So, but she's a super professional. She's been doing this for giant companies for years. So she's really good at like, okay, I can make sure I can bust out this many a week. And, so we're hoping to have it out and in people's hands by the end of this year. So like November, December-ish. Obviously, despite rumors to the contrary, Samantha's not a robot. She has robotic skill of drawing amazing things, but there's always kind of that human element, like she gets the flu or whatever, but we've put in some cushion time. So that we think that's a very reasonable goal.
Awesome.
And the PDF versions, which come with every backing level, actually have charts instead. So you won't. It's not like you're printing out the tarot deck. It's like a 10 or 15 when we finalize it. We're trying to make it as accessible as possible. So you can use it with any tarot deck. So you can there's a lot of people who have tarot decks that are very close to their heart that they really like are connected with. So then you could play Decuma with any Rider-Waite tarot deck. So those should be out like pretty quick, like within a month or two of us closing. So we have some accessibility consultants helping us make that so it will work well with readers and things like that. We're having a little bit of difficulty with the chart part of that. But as soon as that's all cleaned up, then we'll be sending out those and also the digital rewards. So we're looking like summertime for that.
Cool. And it's cool to hear there's accessibility. Accessibility is a major design focus for those.
Absolutely. We also did that with the back of the cards because that was one of the things we got from feedback from the playtesters is the 3 different types of cards that do different types of questions were different colors on the back, so you could very easily sort them. But people brought back the feedback, hey, this is great, except I have trouble differentiating color and things like that. So we ended up adding symbols to the back too. So even if you don't see differences between color well, you can see okay, those are the star cards, those are the sun cards, those are the moon cards. So it still flows together and looks really nice. But everyone can see and differentiate it better.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends who have color blindness issues, and I can see how that would be an issue looking at them.
Yeah.
Gosh, those are pretty.
But yeah, it's been fun and it's great to see. I don't know, it's kind of amazing, like because you make something that you're like, oh, okay, me and my friends will like this, and like the first version of it, like I bought like the Miss Cleo $5.99 tarot cards on Amazon. And I was taking like the little like address label stickies and I was like writing it on there because I was like, well, I'll just make this for my friends on it. It'll be great. And then like I started taking it to some local gaming shops and local cons and stuff. And people were like, hey, what's that? Well, that's pretty neat. And like people started asking about it. And then they were like, you should really make this. I was like, oh, okay. And so it's kind of this thing that's like snowballed into like this cool thing. And it's exciting.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear it's going so well for you. This is a wonderful project, and I don't want to say "gosh, they're pretty" again because I've said that like 10 times, but
That's okay.
I'm sure that's not a problem for you to hear. But
No, I like hearing that a lot. So because they're beautiful, they're a little expensive to have her draw them all, but it's definitely worth it.
absolutely, yeah. So, is there anything else about the project that you want to highlight while you're here?
It's exciting because it's an all-woman team working on it. So there's myself, there's Abria Iyengar, who's my director of marketing. She's also on a bunch of different streams and stuff, kind of well known in the LA streaming scene with Hyper RPG and Saving Throw Show, and with us and Happy Jacks, Samantha and Mac, who I already talked about. So it's kind of neat to have this project be kind of like, I don't know, there's something neat having an all-woman team working on it. And because that's something that's it's becoming more common, but it's pretty rare. Like I've been doing tabletop content online for over a decade now. And, it's like, I remember back in the day when like you'd show up at somewhere and you're like, oh, you're a woman. And like, it's like baffling. And you're like, yeah. And there's always been women playing tabletop RPGs. But, for a long time, it wasn't as common to see us being open about it, I suppose. So having seen how the hobby has changed in the last decade, it's been pretty cool. And now there's like, an all-woman team making cool stuff. And we're excited about like our next big project and all these different things.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. Best of luck, I guess. I mean, you're already fully funded, but
I know, it's exciting. It was really important for us to have like a price point that's like easy to access because we want it to be a usable tool. So as far as the pledge levels, $10 gets you the PDF and your name will be included in the PDF. And then $25 gets you the PDF, your name in the PDF, and then a full deck of Decuma, like mailed to you eventually. So we just really wanted it to be like a lot of the really fancy tarot decks online and in Kickstarters and stuff, they're like $60, $80, stuff like that. But we want it to be priced so you can like use it. It's the whole game fits in a card box, so there's not like a big book to lug around. You're already lugging around your 8 editions of whatever game you play. You don't need another book to take with you. And then the game also kind of it's fun on its own. Like if you're like there at a con and you're like, okay, let's play. Oh, we played Fiasco last night. Decuma can be the kind of like the time filler between the games.
Yeah, I've got a lot of those kind of games kicking around. And a
Right,
lot
they're
of
super fun.
books of various, yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's just a cool creative exercise. It can also be used in between sessions. We had some people who were playtesting it write in and say, hey, I play PBTA, and instead of doing love letters, after, my friend had surgery, so we didn't play for 2.5 months. So then it's like we did some cards instead, and that kind of refreshed the connections and like brought us back into the world that we'd made. And I also have some GMs who play it solo. Like it's like, hey, I just was having a little bit of like writer's block when I was coming up with my world creation piece. I like creating it myself, so I don't want to pass the whole power over to my players, because I really like creating worlds. But then it like makes you think about things from a different point of view.
Yeah, and that's why I first thought when I saw this, because writer's block sucks.
It does. It's also super customizable. You can leave out different sections of the cards. So like if you're running an adventure path and it's like Waterdeep, it's like you don't need a location. Like there's a lot of info out there about Waterdeep. You've probably been there. Your players have probably been there. So you can just leave out, the location cards, the star cards, and just play with the character connection and the world dynamics cards. Same thing if you're playing PBTA or masks or demigods or something like that. It's like, okay, those have really well written in character connection questions, especially with masks. Some of it ties into the mechanics of the game. So it's like, okay, I don't want to mess with that at all. So then you just leave out, the red sun cards, and you've got your location that you can build, and then your group dynamics cards, your world dynamics cards. So it's meant to be a great tool that the GM and the party can make whatever they want it to be.
Cool. I got nothing. Just it looks really cool, and I'm very much looking forward to this succeeding, and I'm reasonably certain that my partner is probably gonna pick up a deck themselves.
Yay!
Which means it'll end up somewhere in this stack behind me.
Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, there's let me see. I'm trying to think of what else. goldenlassogames.com is the website for the company. We do have another game that came out that's just a PDF, a small PDF game that came out earlier this year. It was kind of like what I did when I was bored and waiting for all the feedback from Decuma to come back from the beta testing. It's like nervous game writing. And then we have another game that we're working on after the Decuma craziness calms down, called Moving On, and that's like a story game about looking back and creating a person's life from their death. So it's kind of I guess macabre game, but it's kind of interesting. And you can see more about Decuma there. If you go to the Decuma Kickstarter page, again, goldenlassogames.com/Kickstarter, there's tons of information there. You can see all the not all the cards, but the cards that we've had done. You can see what the decks look like, see what the back of the cards look like. You can see people playing it. There's like a very clear explanation of how it works. We even have a video about how to play that's like less than a minute long, because we know, very short, quick, this is how you play. Don't get distracted by the rest of the internet. And then the pledge levels and the reward levels, pictures of different rewards. Like we have a card play mat that you can get, and a bunch of different stuff. So, and there's a picture of the current version of what we have in Tabletop Simulator in there too. So you can see what that looks like.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, that'll be good. There's also a picture of all the women on the team, and like information about them and where you can find us and all that stuff. Transparency, shipping, all that. The fun stuff.
Yeah. I live for that shippy information. It really gets my heart going.
Of course.
Well, yeah, I think that about wraps it up then.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you so much for having me on.
thank you for coming on. It's been lovely, and I'm very much looking forward to to this.
Excellent.
All right.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to know more about just me as a person, you can find me at Golden Lasso Girl on most social media, Twitter, all these things. There's a Golden Lasso Games Facebook page, which is very, very brand new. So there's like 40 people there right now, but it's all there. And yeah, if you like the project, if you back the project, the best thing you can do, the most helpful thing you can do is help spread the word. There's places like Reddit and forums that you're part of and Facebook groups that aren't open to new people coming in. So my team can't just like join in and be like, hey, we have a cool thing, because those groups tend to like
Ban you.
they tend to ban you. They disapprove. No matter how cool your thing is, they don't want you just coming in and spamming. And I get why. So if you as a member of one of these cool communities is like, hey, I found this thing, like that is gold. That is the most important thing that will help us hit these other stretch goals to get, gold decks and all these things. So that is like your pledge is incredibly valuable, but you helping spread the word is almost equally valuable to helping projects. So do the thing if you like our project and other projects. So
You can even show them this video.
I know, exactly. So awesome. And yeah, there's a really nice video on the Kickstarter page too that explains all about it. It's got little graphics with like a castle popping up and all that stuff too. It explains like the whole thing in like a minute 15. So you can post that too. There's lots of things. All right, my pitch is done.
All right. Well,
All right.
it's really pretty.
Thanks. Well, awesome. Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited. Hopefully I'll be on here again for another project soon.
Yeah, feel free to hit me up if you have any other projects, or
cool.
even if you just want to talk about tabletop stuff. I'm always around.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Same thing. Reach out to me if you ever need someone to talk about something on tabletop. I love talking about tabletop.
I will do.
Okay.
And for those of you watching at home, have a good night, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.